I'm gonna say the part that I'm scared of. Audio. Cause I don't know how to troubleshoot it if there's something up.
I'm back to my mantra, Dave. I will not say.
Yeah, I think we're well done.
Yeah. I think that's it.
So proud.
Yeah.
We're just a techno genius.
Relax, have we started yet? Is there echoing? Yeah.
How do we sound, Kelsey?
It's a little early, huh?
Yeah, maybe text Kelsey and see how it sounds.
Get that owl off of me, staring right at me. Who's that guy?
The owl?
Casey.
Oh, look what that is. Now it's trying to sell us things. Does everybody on the phone have an email that I just sent?
Yes.
Everybody on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay,
Should be one, is that in Cheryl?
From me.
right, it may have been a forward from Cheryl just because that's where it's all good. It was meant for you guys.
Okay. Is your recorder fired up?
Yes. Stand by.
Okay, here we go. City Council work session of November 13th, 2024 at 6 PM to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Allison,
Here?
Tom Baylor,
Here.
Kathy Sherman,
Here.
Casey Kinsman,
Here.
Wendy Rainey. Here. Dave Zastro,
Here.
Kristen Smith. Not yet. Ken Jones.
Here.
That's quorum of council.
Okay, our work session topics tonight, start with city manager's memo. City manager?
Okay, so. Okay, come on. I just have a few things to go over, and then I'm gonna let Cheryl explain the in-kind because she does it much more eloquently than I do. So on the fees, I just wanted to give a little general overview of what has increased or has changed. So some of the police fees have gone up. They have not been updated in a very long time. So those have gone up. City Hall, property tax, header. Underneath that, we included the economic development fees, which are part of the thing we've been working on for incentives. We took out the credit card fees for utilities. We noted that there would be no credit cards for property tax. And we upped the late fee for utilities. It's $25. Not for each utility, but per account. So if you have water, sewer, garbage, it's $25. It's not $75.
Which is the structure it currently is.
Is
It's
now.
just, it was $5 for a full account.
Yep, so, and then. I hope the memo is pretty clear. I would ask any questions, but I'm gonna let Cheryl explain the in-kind that I discussed in the memo.
So that you'll see in the enterprise funds that there's an in-kind, no, sorry, that's,
General fund.
yeah, general funds, so for our contribution to the school, the chamber, I think those are the only two that were in there now. The in-kind was showing up as an expense, but because those aren't actually cash exchanging hands, it increases our expense, even though we know that that's not gonna be cash out the door. So there's multiple ways to handle this in the accounting world, but I do believe it's a more accurate representation for us to show the offsetting part of that. While the school and those entities need to show that they're receiving that from us. We don't need it to look like in our budget that we're inflating our expenses. Inflating might not be a fair word, but, that makes sense.
So where is it represented then?
So now it is in general fund or, non-departmental, the 101,824. Expenses as a contra account.
That's 57,000 is the 5700 is the last numbers.
So what page of the packet?
No,
Is that 20?
I'm looking on the screen, sorry.
Is that 24? Yeah. Non-departmental is on 25.
Okay.
So it's I think it's the second to the last one.
In account allocation. Oh, there you go. So that takes it out of where it should be for.
No, it still shows down in the other entities as an expense, so that they can show that we give those services to them,
Right.
but it's not cash out of our bank account, so for budget purposes, it's important that we show that we are not actually losing cash for that transaction.
So we were decreasing our revenue because it was
Yeah.
only an expense. But
And
in reality, it's.
Yeah. We were showing it just as an expense, but that's not totally true.
But we still pay it.
We don't
We
We don't
just
send them any
charge.
money, like
We
for
don't pay
Ski
them.
Hill, we actually, reimburse them for their utilities, so that's not the same as these transactions. There's no cash exchanging between us and them,
Okay, I only have one problem with that,
okay?
and that's that our charter. Section 8.1 says. Says that our enterprise funds have to have separate accounting systems and can't be, their money can't be used in the general fund for anything without, so I guess. What I'm saying is that if the general fund is giving an in-kind service. For an enterprise fund that is supposed to be run as a business separate. Then
And
the
on,
general fund should be paying that enterprise fund those in-kind fees.
okay, that has not been how it's been done.
I'm not saying it's been done right in
Okay.
the past, I'm just saying that that's the way it should be being done, otherwise.
Well, maybe we need to show it in the general fund because. We have to look like we're giving school funding
You need to
from,
show it as an expense in the general fund, and then it should be a legitimate expense to the general fund.
With
Over to the
revenue
enterprise
to the
funds,
enterprise.
and you do a journal entry, or if it makes it easier.
And-
Write a check to them for that amount, but we're shorting. The enterprise
We
fund,
are showing a revenue side on the enterprise funds for this.
but you're showing but you're writing that off, no, you're not showing them for the school and the.
Yeah.
None of your numbers are balancing on the enterprise funds for the in-kind stuff. And we can look at that when we go look at the enterprise funds tonight in detail, but. You don't should. For example, where's the revenue? The harbor has 120,000 for sewer, water and garbage as an expense. But there's no $120,000 revenue unless maybe it's in the general revenue
It is,
line.
it is billed out in the normal utility billing, so it does show up as the revenue.
Okay,
I'm seeing 120 under harbor as a water sewer and refuse.
yeah,
And then for.
and that's
water, sewer, refuse.
that's broken out into the water.
Because we bill it the same in our system, so it comes in as the revenue when we bill that. Yes,
Okay, well, that makes sense
Okay.
then, but the in-kind. The refuse is done different than the sewer and water.
correct.
I'm not sure why it had the in-kind in the revenue and in the expense.
I think to show the same way that they are not receiving.
But water
How
doesn't
you
show it in revenue, it just shows it in expense.
It shouldn't.
Well, it doesn't match, put it that
Okay.
way.
Well, we can fix
But
that.
my biggest problem with it is that we're trying to write off all of the in-kind money from the school and the chamber,
That's matching on.
from the general fund and the enterprise fund, the sewer, water and garbage aren't seeing any of that revenue.
Well, on yours, you see it, what page is that?
Sorry, I'm not using the copy, I should.
Okay.
Nice one.
So water,
Water.
Just pick one of them and look at it.
in-kind revenue, $7,334.
And then
Well,
down,
when you're looking at water,
Water,
yeah,
page
page
34.
and then those three broken out do equal that amount. Down in expenses. On page 35.
so page
36.
34,
34 shows the revenue, and then on page 36, it shows the in-kind water services. To those
where does it show? Okay, in-kind revenue.
it doesn't,
7,300.
match exactly though.
It doesn't?
Or maybe it will.
Mine shows
Oh, I'm sorry, I
exactly.
went to the wrong.
Yeah.
I'm in the refuse.
Get out of the garbage.
I'm flipping pages the wrong direction.
Yeah, but you're saying that but if you add up all of the in-kind that you have in sewer, water and garbage, you know, comes anywhere close to what the school and
The 75,000, the two different lines for 75,500 are different than just those utility services. It's,
Cause it's more than just utilities.
yeah, that we,
what other in-kind are we giving them under the sewer,
I
water
can
and
get back to
garbage?
you on that.
You'll have to get back to me on that.
Yeah.
Cause
Yeah.
Cause
Off my
the
head.
header says sewer, water and garbage.
But it just
On
says
the general.
in kind.
Yeah, it does not.
In-kind, just
It
as
says
in-kind,
in-kind.
yeah, for in-kind revenue. So that's why your 181, 600 doesn't match the 151 plus 4,800,
Yes,
there's extra stuff in that.
it is the two lines of the school in kind and the chamber in kind lease and just their normal in kind, because those are all
Oh, that includes,
non-cash
includes the
transactions.
lease.
Yeah.
Okay. That I could go with
I will look
writing
at
off,
charter,
but I think,
whatever.
yeah, but the utilities, I think you gotta pay the enterprise funds for the charter.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe staff can help me out on this. If we're providing an in-kind contribution from water, sewer and garbage or whatever the enterprise fund is, we're not paying them out of the general fund, then are the ratepayers paying for this in-kind contribution through these enterprise funds? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, in a roundabout way, yes.
But I mean, it's the taxpayers.
Well, not necessarily, every taxpayer isn't necessarily
A rate.
have sewer, water and garbage. I mean, it could be, but it not necessarily. Those, I lost my, I'm certain most, yeah.
Well, land.
Overall landowner.
But I'm just saying that the charter says that it's separate accounting system and it can't be mixed with the general fund and we're now mixing it with the general fund. So I think that however we did it in the past,
Well, it used, in 2018, that's how it was done, and we had a conversation with Chris Urchinson, who's a finance director, that it should be shown
On both.
on both.
And I would say that we still meet the requirement of having a different accounting system for both, for all enterprise funds and the general funds.
but we're mixing funds though.
we're doing transfers in the same way that we do the allocated administrative costs. I guess I'm not following on how we're mixing.
Well, number one, you said you were mixing their depreciation fund, which I know you've got a number for that, and there's gotta be a balance in there somewhere in your system that you can tell that, but you're not. You're giving the school 151,000 in kind, but you're not. At least the sewer, water and garbage part, you're not paying to the enterprise fund. Right? Am I wrong in that? 'Cause you
No,
wrote it all off in the general fund. By adding this line, you wrote it off in the general fund.
we are not writing it off,
Well,
we're
zero
making
to
sure
that.
it does not have the intention of a cash transaction. But, and I wanna go back to you saying we mixed all the depreciation funds, that is not true, they all have their own GL.
Yeah,
hope that was not,
I assume that it's been
Misunderstood from the last
discussed in the
meeting.
past that it was
okay,
part of it, but. Anyway, I think there should be a transaction going from the general fund into the enterprise fund. Otherwise, you're violating the charter.
Well, maybe you can get with Chris about it.
Yeah.
That's up to council to decide what they wanna do there, but that's. Read the charter, section 8.
Okay, so I guess. We'll have to figure out, okay, so we'll have to figure out how that impacts the budget, if that's,
Yeah,
Part of
I
it.
think there's still 150,000. Short of. Balancing your budget.
Okay, well, council knows, we got advice from a contracted finance director, assistant, Chris, who's been amazing. And we'll get to the bottom of it and we'll see if a change needs to be made.
Yeah, this has been talked about for quite some time, having a separate accounting for the enterprise funds, at least as long as I've been on council, and I would agree with Mr. Mayor here that it needs to be separated.
One has nothing to do with the other, you guys are talking about two different things.
and they're maintained separately.
yes. All enterprise funds have their own GLs.
You're just endeavoring to show that there's not a cash exchange primarily.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not gonna hash this out here because
Yeah.
we don't have the. You know,
I think it probably helps the school district that we give them an in-kind, right? Cause really, it might be easiest for us if we took it out altogether
It counts
and then
towards
it
their
didn't have,
total.
exactly, so
We
they
could give
need
them
us to
cash
do
for
it.
that.
And this is just how we account for it in the budget.
I mean, we are still showing that, and they see that.
But your enterprise fund is not showing the revenue.
I guess,
They're showing, it costs them to go tip a dumpster at the pool,
that's a,
or I mean, at the
School.
school.
Right.
But they're not getting any revenue for that, but they've got the expense for it. They've got the employee
Okay,
doing it.
I think we got it,
We'll
so
see.
we'll look into it, I mean, I can't.
You're saying as council looks through the budget, they need to keep that into consideration. It's $150,000. They gotta come up with somewhere. What other than in kind on your memo, what were we wanting to look at?
Well, I kind of assume you want to get everything, like. I mean, so. We left revenue at $1 million. Fish tax at $1 million, we only got 922 this year. Sales tax, we left at 4.775, it's gonna be a good year. We did get to 4.106. This year,
That'll still add some from,
from the online sales
The
tax.
online sales,
Yep. And property tax, we put at 3.12, cause I heard a half a mil when we had that discussion, so that's half a mil. We increased the revenue by 120,000 for the fuel oil, additional fee for the fuel oil per gallon that, we have collected for the harbor, so it is now 0.06, 0.03, basically half. Will come to the city, or come to the general fund.
Had that been discussed prior?
Yeah, we
Did I
talked
miss it
about this
somewhere?
at multiple meetings, this was one of Kenny's
Last meeting.
ideas, and I do believe I did bring it up at the last meeting as well. I've been kind of waiting on Holly to give me the okey dokey on that, talked about the in-kind. So we still have the pool ops not filled, the temp fire, the part-time IT, which is a total of $217,000. We reduced the ski hill by, and this is, my reduction in the chamber and school, I reduced them all by $10,000 and put that back up. Equipment maintenance, which is streets, we reduced by 25,000, and street maintenance is still reduced by 10,000. In the budget, we're gonna do the grant payment out of the permanent fund. The remaining 34,250 is budgeted. We also have in the budget the pool fire alarm panel move, the railroad road land costs, the HVAC for the pool, and the finance director at a full year. I think just to have that reality of what a full year looks like is a good thing. Also, we can buy that position in January, and it's just not as remote, and see what we get.
And do you still have? Then do you still have professional services expenses or whatever you're
We
calling it?
reduce that now.
Contract, okay,
Cause
you wouldn't have both, you'll have one or the other.
Correct.
correct.
Stamina, the pool fire alarm panel, and then the finance director, that's a hyphen, not a minus, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Yep. So I mean, that's all I have. We can talk about any other things that you,
Is the fuel wharfage on all fuel or is it just diesel?
can you explain the fuel oil term?
Your memo just says fuel oil, so
I don't know what else.
I just wanna clarify that.
It's everything that comes across the dock, before that gets the barge in, before it goes to the tank and to the pumps.
Okay, so it's all fuel, gas, diesel, everything.
Yes.
So the fuel oil wharfage is a total of 3%, or are we adding another 3%?
It's not a percentage, it's a cent.
Cents per gallon.
Yeah, so we
Okay, all right, cents, is it,
so we
go
added
ahead.
0.03. We currently collect 0.03 for the harbor. To help with the bond payments and maintenance. And we added an additional 0.03 to come to the general fund.
Comes to the general fund or?
And
General fund,
That's
that's what was asked.
I thought it was in the harbor.
It is in the harbor fee schedule because that is where it is collected and the money is taken in, and there's an asterisk on it. So that will then we have a transfer into the general fund.
So where's it on the general fund revenue? I think the harbor
Transfers, yeah.
shows revenue of 6 cents per
Page
gallon.
5 at the bottom.
The revenue is not, yes, and then they transfer it to the city, to the
Okay.
general fund.
So that's due from other funds, that's that one?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I've got to admit, I do not remember that the extra 3 cents. So you're saying that as a council, we did discuss that and we did pass that to make it 6 cents a gallon?
We haven't passed anything because it's in the fee schedule, which hasn't been passed. the council, when we were reviewing all those revenue options, we discussed this. This was something that you said at that one meeting where we talked about what we're moving forward with in 25 and what's coming out the after. In 25, you know, to discuss like the gross receipt taxes and those things. This particular fee was asked to be done. So it's in there. We have not passed anything because it's.
I don't think we ever discussed 3 cents or 10 cents or 25 cents or
Oh, I
anything like that.
I do agree with that.
We just discussed that it was, that's one of the fees, the wharfage fee is one of the fees that hits everybody. It hits the nonprofits, it hits the government units, it hits everybody. Which is one thing we're trying to do, we move our revenues to everybody. And get some of that, so that's, I think that's where that discussion.
And you did ask me to look into what other harbors are charging. And it ranges from 0.02 to 20 cents. With the average probably 4 to 6. So.
Kathy?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Lots of questions have been answered. I'm still a little confused about in-kind, but I know you can come back to us with that answer after consultation. I was gonna suggest a couple things, I guess. Or at least throw them out there to see what my fellow counselors think. On the expense side, I'm going to start there. I was going to suggest that we remove the first quarter of salary and benefits for the finance director. That comes to about 57,000. I think we could still go ahead and advertise that. I don't know if I can't see it being filled in the first quarter, but if that comes to be, it comes to be. But that 57,000, I think, could return 15,000 to the ski hill for insurance, 20,000 to the chamber, and 20,000 to the school, with a little change to spare. That's on expenses. And I've been looking closely again at the sales taxes, the revenue side, sales tax, the online tax, the public accommodations tax, and the MAT tax. And I would feel safe moving them all up a little bit. I have those numbers. It doesn't add up to much, just about $60,000, but every little bit counts. And if you wanted to hear those numbers, I can go through them. Or if you want to just discuss the expenses first, that would be fine with me too.
I guess I'd be curious to hear what the revenue side ideas you have.
Pardon me?
I'd like to hear what the bumps you're thinking about in revenue.
Okay. So for sales tax, I was gonna up that $20,000 to 4.795. Again, not much in the big scheme. The online tax up to $10,000, so 535,000. The public accommodations tax up 20,000 to 245,000. And the sin tax, the MAT tax from 205,000 to 215,000. I've just been, and my reasoning is I've been pondering some of the things Kenny Jones has been talking to us about with the fishing, and then also watching and seeing what the chamber's been doing to bring in more visitors to the community. And I think, you know, still here in December, we have the big gala for the chamber this weekend, plus the Board of Fish coming in, and all those are, you know, nice late season taxes, and all these things will be affected by those. So I'm just kind of, I didn't increase them too much because I didn't want to be foolhardy, but on the other hand, I felt we could go just a little bit higher with those. And I would think and hope that in the coming year with finance under Cheryl's control, we could see quarterly reports of where we are year to date on all those so that we can monitor them as we go forward. That would be so helpful, even just quarterly, to see those. So that was my thinking.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
thank you. I will second Kathy's proposal because I had written out the exact same thing. What if we don't fund the first quarter of the finance director position? Because it seems it's possible that we would fill it right away. But anyway, I think I completely endorse that approach. I had broken down where we would distribute that 57,000 a little bit differently, but the same three entities, the ski hill, the chamber, and the school. So I completely support that. I'm willing to entertain increasing some of these other amounts. And I wondered, I guess it won't necessarily help us in 2025 because we don't know what will happen, but I just wondered if there'd been any thought to what it would look like for raw fish tax if there actually is a herring fishery this fall and the amount that's been allowed is harvested. I don't know if anybody, if anyone's had time to do the math on that, but I was just curious if somebody had what that number might be.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I know that.
Go ahead, Ken.
Yes, there is a bait fishery this fall. 500 tons will be taken. There's 2 boats participating. They're both delivering into Whittier because no processors are opening in Cordova. It's going to be about $250,000 worth of total fish if they catch the fish. So they still have to go out and find it and catch them. And that's not always easy this time of year with the weather. So I don't think that Cordova will see any of that revenue, unfortunately. But in the spring, hopefully we can entice a processor to open. So far, I'm coming up with a swing and a miss on that one for my own business, but hopefully one of these local processors will open for a spring fishery.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just to follow up on that, I did, I probably falls under the heading of trust but verify, but I did talk to the Cordova Times fisheries reporter today, and she obviously hasn't submitted anything, but she was saying that it sounds like she's going to be reporting that Copper River Seafoods did say they would open.
Yeah, they're buying in Whittier.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Thanks.
At any rate, even $250,000 worth with the raw fish tanks isn't much.
Right. It's not a lot. Yeah. Thank you.
Question for you, Sam. If they are to reduce the finance director to a 3/4 time for next year, does that do anything to your professional services, to your costs otherwise? Because you said you took some out to add that.
What had you had it in initially, at 8 months?
Yes.
So what is?
It was one, that Gerald, it's on our working copy. 176, I think,
Yeah.
for 8 months. So, I mean,
If we reduce the wage salaries by
understand what you're
857,
Yeah.
what does that do to the total?
so we have
expense?
30,000 in professional services.
We had dropped it down to 19,326 because we.
From,
From 70,000.
okay.
Yes.
So it's gonna add half of that back. To save 57, we're gonna have to add
We will have to put some in there,
25 or 30 into contracted services or whatever you call that line.
professional services.
You understand that? You don't have the whole 57 to,
Correct.
Ben.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but also I proposed increasing the revenues as well.
hey, how does everybody feel about the revenues increasing?
I support the revenues increasing. I do think that if we're gonna increase the revenues slightly, especially the public accommodation tax, that should go to the chamber. I agree with the other 2 council members who have spoken before me that wanted to give the money to the chamber, the school district, and the ski hill for that increase.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I have more of a novel idea. Why don't we keep the cuts, live within the budget that we have, quit wishing that we're gonna make more money? Because next year you're gonna find yourself in the same situation. We just need to make these cuts and live with what we can bring in. If we bring in extra, let's put it back into the permanent fund or the general fund. You know, we're in this situation because we spent several years spending COVID money, you know, the free money falling from the sky. We couldn't afford it then, we can't afford it now. So we need to figure out our budget and live within it, make the cuts. If we get more money than we expected, then fine, put it in the general fund, but yeah, you just can't keep borrowing from your future and kicking this can down the road.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to chime in with, Councilmember Sherman and, Smith, I also agree with the idea of reducing the finance director down by a quarter and how they suggested spreading out those funds. And I would also say that I do agree, to a degree with Councilmember Baylor, you know, living within our funds, but when I look at the cuts we're proposing for these entities that we're talking about pulling money back, that kind of a heavy cut is hard to take all in 1 year. If we find that next year we can't continue that and we need to make additional cuts, that would make sense to do at that time, but these seem pretty heavy handed, right now. We have a way of reducing that down to something more manageable.
Yeah, Councilmember Rainey.
Yeah, I had also looked at the quarter funding for the finance director. For me, a big concern was putting that 13,000 back into the ski hill for insurance because, you know, we're, whatever else happens with the chamber or the school, you know, I'm okay with, but taking the insurance off the ski hill, I wanna make sure the ski hill operates, and I don't know that they have the funding to be able to do that, without it. We've cut, everybody's taking cuts across the board and we've cut their maintenance ask. But I'd really like to see the 13,000 go back into paying for the insurance on the ski hill. They are revamping, is it 15 to 15? The 15 for revamping that. They are revamping and restructuring right now, and they're looking towards income. You know, they're getting back on track, but again, like Dave said, you know, all this happening at once, you know, we've got to be a little easier moving forward. So that was what my fix was. I hesitate to increase revenue any more than we already have. That makes me really nervous. But I do agree with the finance director, as long as we see the insurance go back into the ski hill, and then whatever else I'm council's direction, I will go with.
Just, from my perspective, I guess, just a cautionary tale on the, it's easy to balance your budget by adding to your revenues. Because that's a number that you can't prove until it's too late. So I would demand more timely reports, because if you get to August and you're 20% low on your revenues, several line items of your revenues, you're gonna be looking for whatever the difference is there in money coming from where. At that point in time, you got nowhere to get the money, and at that point in time, all the agencies you've worked over money to have plans as well. So I wouldn't go too high on your revenues, but whatever you guys feel comfortable with, it's your call on those.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've just got a question for council. So who has the ability to increase their volunteer help in this community? The pool, ski hill, the Chamber of Commerce, or does the city? Can the city get some more volunteer help and reduce its costs? No. Can these other entities? Yes. I'm telling you, we gotta start living within our budget. That's all I got to say.
So I think we've got an agreement with at least four, I think, to reduce the finance director to 3/4 time.
Okay.
And to see what that does to your contract rates too,
Well,
when we do that. It's not,
I heard it all going back to the cuts to the,
well,
not into back into.
I'm just
the-
telling you, if you're going to have to spend more on professional services for the finance department, if you don't have a finance director, January, February, March, then those expenses need to be added in to the expense side before we finalize this budget. If you don't need any more professional services, then then the whole amount can be used to pay for these other things, but otherwise, we've just saved 57,000, if that's a right number, and spent
57.
whatever that is for the ski hill. What was it for the schools that we said they had back? 20. And for the chamber?
20. 17 for the ski home is what I wrote down.
55.
50.
So-
15.
15 for the ski.
15.
That would cover the insurance.
Yeah,
15,
we're
20.
just looking to cover their
So
insurance.
40, 50, so that's 55, so it's basically the full amount.
Yeah.
So we've saved
Potentially,
57,
yeah.
spent 55. Maybe spent some more on professional services. What do you wanna do with revenues? I've only heard one commit to raising those revenues.
Mayor,
Yeah,
I'd be curious what staff thinks about the suggestions, if they have any thoughts.
on raising the 3 revenues that we talked about.
Exactly.
I mean. I don't know. Like,
What was the public accommodations one, Kathy? Go from 225 to 245?
yeah,
Yeah.
215 to mat tax. 20,000 to sales tax. And 10,000,
What was the?
535 on the
yeah, so 10,000 to this.
remote.
Mhm.
Yeah, from the top down, sales tax up 20, online tax up 10, public accommodations tax up 20, and mat tax 10. And I'm comfortable with the discussion. I'm just throwing that out there.
I could see the 2 lower ones.
Yeah, it compared to their 24.
I could see public accommodations and alcohol.
I would ask staff how comfortable they are with their general fund balance. If we come in at the same amount as this year.
Not good.
Not good.
We're putting that ordinance in front of you guys pretty quick.
I mean, we are, that's the plan, but yeah, I mean, we ended the year at $125,000.
How often does the council wanna have an ordinance to take money out of the permanent fund to pad your general fund
And
balance?
Well, we're doing it one time and we're.
Well, I know, but if these come in at
I understand.
20% less in August, you're gonna have to have another one.
I think the other thing, is that we have to understand this in kind, and we felt very confident after we talked with Chris. So I mean, that's a whole nother, that's not even,
And it is how it was handled from 2018 prior, I mean,
Talk in the mic.
sorry. It's reverting back to how it was handled from 2018 earlier, it just hadn't been handled the last few years that way.
so we just, yeah,
Because
without,
non-financial people have been doing the budget for the last few years.
And even if we do, like I did take it out, just this working version to see like how. What the picture is without that, and. I don't believe. Well, I know that not all of that amount was for. Things from the enterprise funds, so we can narrow it down if that's the direction that we are being asked to go.
but it's still fairly substantial.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just more
More of a
expense,
deficit.
yeah. I mean, I feel like without even knowing what that number looks like,
What else can we do? I mean, at this point, we need to know that.
Is
Yeah.
part of it at the schools, street maintenance, like plowing and stuff, but not plowing, because plowing is
I don't know,
for everyone.
I don't know. what
But is there
that's-
some outside maintenance that would be a general fundy type of thing, not an enterprise fund thing?
I'll get a solid list on that.
Yeah.
But the portion that impacts the enterprise funds is 46,000 of it. So if we're removing 46,000 of that contra offset, that's what we're.
That's not so bad, that's 150.
So if we take the 1/4 finance director and then put in the money for that, that pretty much takes care of that.
Well, we're hoping to find
Yeah.
the answer to that, to not have to do anything.
But if it did, we're still in the same place we are right now, where we.
For me, I was looking to find money to be able to put the 15,000 back to the ski hill. That's all I was looking for. And the one thing I saw was thinking, you know, that we've been flying that position for how long, how many years? And, you know, it's still not looking at, talking with people and looking at what that costs in other communities. We are way low, even, you know, with it being, having the remote option. So I just didn't see it getting filled in that first quarter. So I was comfortable doing a 3/4 on that budget. And putting the 15,000 back into the ski hill, because I don't want to see any entity that we're involved in have to shut their doors. That's the bottom line. I think covering the insurance is an important way to keep going. I mean, that is we own all the infrastructure up there. That's a city. It's a city infrastructure thing, and I think helping them with the insurance is my goal for looking at this, whether we put anything back into the chamber or back into the school. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to hit that 15,000 back into the ski hill. And then the finance director was the only place I could find it.
Kristen's got her hand up.
Go ahead, Councilor Smith.
Oh, yeah, that might be a holdover, but I would, say that in terms of revenue increases, as Councilmember Manny was saying, I was focused on helping out the chamber and the school and the ski hill as much as we could. So if we stick with that 57,000 figure, to be able to redistribute, and then also I realize we have to account for contract services, which we would have to do anyway until we find somebody to take the position. I don't think we need to increase on the revenue side quite as much as has been proposed. I'm comfortable with some of those increases, but I guess I would maybe keep the revenue increases to a total of 20 or 30,000 at the most, just so we're not being too aspirational. Thank you.
Anybody else? And we won't know on whether or not we can hire a finance director that doesn't live in Cordova until well after the March elections. So.
Right.
That's why I think we said 6 months to begin with.
Yeah, but I think the idea is that you could get it out there. It has not been being flown for quite some time. You know, it just doesn't hurt. And if you don't have the money there and you do find somebody, then you're at the bottom.
Yeah.
I did think it was important to put it in, just so you guys can see what it costs for a full year, because you are committing into the future also.
No, that's not.
So if I understand the math correctly, we are gonna be with potentially 46,000 to the enterprise funds. We're gaining 57,000 maybe from the finance director. And we're gonna give back to others 30,000, so we're in the hole. Am I understanding that correctly?
I'm only looking at 15.
You guys,
It's still in the hole, but it's not as.
But you still need to find out about the in-kind transfers and all that.
I'm uncomfortable increasing our revenue from where we're sitting. I just think that's scary.
Mayor Allison.
Yes.
I'm going to withdraw my original proposal on the revenue increases and change it to online sales tax 10,000, public accommodations 10,000, mat tax 10,000. That gives us 30,000. And then I'm going to suggest we resolve the in-kind issue, clarify that. And I still think that we should be able to remove the first quarter for the finance director, re-engage with some of our partners in a smaller way than we have significantly funded them for quite a few years. And that way we kind of all take hits. City budget, nonprofits that we benefit. I think when you look at the city budgets where we've been in the past, we have barely increased it, and that's with a huge insurance increase. And I think the manager and the finance have done a really good job. I just don't think we can cut too much more from the city budget. And I think the partners need to participate in our hard year.
So how does everybody feel about that for revenue? Adding 30,000 to the revenue and the taxes that she,
Online, public and that, that's what I got.
So then that's 87,000. And what are you guys doing with it? How much is going back to
well, I've heard agreement on the ski hill for 15,000.
agreement from everyone on the ski hill?
I think so. Is that anybody?
No, I concur, I agree.
I think I heard at least 4 that were concurring with that. Doesn't
Yes,
mean
for
every-
me.
Yeah, I would agree to raising the ski hill and the backup.
So we've got 4 for that.
And
So that's
72.
in.
The 46, because we don't know.
Yeah.
46 for the in kind, because we don't know what's happening with that.
Right. And with that, no. Sorry, say.
You guys are playing with like pennies now, it seems.
Well, we're
like.
negative.
Yeah.
It's negative at that point.
No,
Yeah, if you take out the 46, we're negative.
out of 72? All they've done is, we have
Oh, you
87,
haven't,
take out 15 for ski hill, so now you're at 72.
Okay.
Then take out 46, and that's 36 or 26?
So
26.
26.
School and chamber going back.
Well, they didn't say a definite on school and chamber, they all definitely
no,
agreed on the 15. for
The only one that I heard 4 agree on was the ski hill.
So maybe we'll leave it at that when we find out what's going on with, the in-kind.
I would like to see a breakdown of what all of that in kind is for the school and chamber.
well, the
If
chamber,
it's not just sewer, water and garbage, if it's,
Chambers is sewer, water and garbage, and then our lease.
so,
Oh, yes, for the
so the,
school.
for the school.
we also do, I think snow removal.
And chamber.
Like in the parking lot.
Whatever makes up that 151,000.
Mr. Mayor,
Obviously, we're doing quite a bit for them if 105 or 110 is not sewer, water and garbage, so. Gotta be doing something. Yeah, go ahead, Council Baylor.
yeah, so all this decisions made on the ski hill, did we look at their financial report? Did we look at the money that's coming into them and how they're spending it so we made this determination they won't be able to operate without the funds we give them? Or are we just taking a poke, we're just gonna give it to them?
I haven't seen their budget yet, and I think Reggiani was coming to our next meeting.
Yes,
To
we
give a
have
report.
the stuff, he's giving a report on the
But
20th.
you guys have the budget from him.
Well, he asked for it. They ask for the same thing every year.
But we have the numbers.
Do we have their
We do not have
Detailed
their
budget?
numbers.
Okay,
He sends me a budget that asks for money
That
from
asks
us.
for
Okay.
money.
yeah. Yeah, we need to see their detailed budget in order to determine that ourselves. They didn't used to get the pass through, and that's pretty substantial now, that pass through money, so they gotta be doing something with it.
They provided what those funds are, though, at one point, didn't they? Has to be dollars to the receipt.
It's pretty detailed in his presentation that he's given,
Yeah.
and so the packet will be out Friday, he doesn't see it. But if he needs insurance, they can prioritize their own budget to pay for insurance first, you know? Doesn't mean they can from us.
Well, obviously, they need insurance, or they're not gonna operate.
It's a requirement of the contract,
Yeah,
but it's not a requirement of the city to pay for it.
And when was the last time that contract was negotiated? When is that contract? How old is that contract?
I think,
2012, 13?
yeah, I was gonna say, I think it was 2012 or 13, yep.
When I first came.
I don't
Mr.
remember.
Mayor,
First year we paid that, but it was been a while. Was that Counselor Kinsman?
yeah, did I read correct? Their contract's up in 27, is that, or their lease or their contract with us?
Yes, the ski hill lease
Yes.
with the state and the ski club is all.
In
Okay.
2027.
The state race.
Can we go back to the oil and wharfage? I know, I do remember the meeting where we did discuss, it was kind of the final bullet point of, I don't know, half a dozen or even a dozen possible revenue options. And I do remember Councilmember Jones bringing that up. Who pays it? I guess, and this is just for my own knowledge. I know we're saying it touches everyone. I guess, can I just get some more information on it?
Tony?
It's
Tony,
called,
Sugar?
I know it's sometimes referred to as wharfage and here we're calling it this oil increase.
It's a fuel wharfage, and I think that number comes from Shoreside pays it. Yeah, Tony? Come up here for a second.
What was the question?
Who wants to know?
I'm just wanting some more information on what the wharfage is, this oil charge. How's it collected? Who pays it? How does the city receive it?
Well, everyone pays it. I mean, everyone is responsible for paying. I mean, no one's exempt from that fuel wharfage additional 3 cents.
Who writes the check to the harbor?
Shoreside.
Shoreside. Does AML pay this? Do we know?
What do you mean? Do
I mean, I guess, would they be gathering, so only if AML were paying or getting fuel here
they? Yeah, I
in
mean,
Cordova?
absolutely. I mean, it doesn't matter, you're the government, you're the local government, everybody, Forest Service, everyone pays an additional 3 cents on it.
It's before it hits the pump.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in the end, everyone pays it because it's charged out of the
Okay.
funds.
And thank you. That's what I was looking for. How's it collected? So, and are we, I guess, with increasing it up to, how long has it been 3 cents? Do we have that historical information roughly?
No. 19.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it was before
Maybe.
COVID.
right at 20, we started in the late time of banking, like,
It was
Maybe
put in,
14.
4 year.
it was put into place when we did the bond for the harbor as a mechanism to help us pay for bond payments and then into the future for harbor maintenance.
Okay. And then, so before that, we weren't collecting anything. for
no,
wharfage.
well, it was an
Okay.
additional 3 cents, right?
We were collecting some barrel. It was
Right,
way
we
lower.
charged. Yeah, we charged a certain amount per barrel, I don't know, it was 18 cents a barrel or something, but
And we were charging that prior to us collecting this wharfage. And so the barrel went away and we just went with this wharfage. Is that correct? Or we do both now?
so charge the barrel, and then we charge the per gallon, that everyone did charge.
Okay,
The per gallon and the 1 cent fish tax, or half a cent fish tax,
0.5%.
was meant to pay back the bond.
0.5%.
Yeah, 0.5%.
Yes.
Wait, those were both part of the ballot when
They would pay back the bond and was it part to pay back the permanent fund at all?
no. We were even
Before that
there.
happened.
We
Yeah, long before.
had to have the bond in order to get a grant.
Yeah.
At that
Okay.
magnitude.
I guess as we're looking at increase of revenue. Sorry, I just muted myself. If everyone feels comfortable with the 3 cents. Is that an opportunity to, I mean, raise that to 4 cents? What's the feeling on that? If we're trying to capture revenue from all the users in our community. I know we're talking negligible amounts if we're talking a cent, but that's it. To me, seems like I guess, a more trackable amount that we have historical information on. It's
You're
then,
talking $40,000 per penny.
yep,
So are we talking like 3 cents the harbor party charges, or are we talking about?
No, this is.
We're doing
He's
3
talking
more.
about the additional.
Oh,
So we're-
okay.
Yeah.
20, right?
Yeah.
yep. So
Okay.
three cents is proposed right now, and I'm just putting it out to council. Is there an appetite for, 4 cents, knowing that each penny, each cent is 40,000?
So just be clear, it's 3%, we're already increasing the 3% for a total of 6.
It's not
Percent.
percent.
Oh, I'm sorry, cents, sorry, I know we keep doing that, pennies.
It exists currently at 0.03%, and that money goes to the harbor. Did I say percent? Oh,
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
It really is the same.
3%, really.
Yes.
It's okay.
0.03.
And that money goes to the harbor and was put in place to help pay for the bond and future harbor maintenance. When we discussed it, the idea was to raise it an additional amount in order to put money into the general fund because it was an option for a fee increase. So it is an additional amount,
3 cents.
so it
Now
is
it'll
a
be 6.
That would be
full
six.
of,
I just wanted to make that clear for everybody, if we're talking about raising it even more.
I would prefer that we raise that and lower the property tax back down to, and not have to raise the mill rate, because mill rate's paid by 50% of our community and the fuel tax is paid by 100% of our community.
So, yeah, it's one of those few things that we can, again, touch everybody shares in the cost.
the mill rate was raised by 120,000.
So that was, I just wanted to put that out there.
Not the mill rate.
And thank you, Tony, for clarifying that and speaking more specifically to that. I do appreciate that for my own information. And hopefully in any public who's out there and hearing what is that, so.
Mayor Allison.
Yes, Councilmember Sherman.
So, your point is good, and Councilor Kinsman's is as well. How do the other councilors feel about increasing that versus some of the other things we've talked about, or trying to lower the property tax? I would be in favor of that. It does spread the burden out to more an equal amount or equal users. I'm not sure of the right words right now.
Council?
Yeah, Mayor, I don't know. Oh, sorry, come on.
Go ahead, who's online?
Leave the tax where it's at, cut your budget by 45,000 instead. the budget cuts.
We're thinking sooner or later, you're gonna have to make cuts. Might. It might be later, I don't know.
I guess what my thought is that, I'm not willing to start cutting our, the mill rate property, tax at this point. I mean, that's an assessed amount and that there's lots of data that backs up why we charge what we charge. But, I do understand that it's a smaller percentage of the community, but I'm not willing to look at that personally right now.
This budget does currently include a $500,000 increase.
Right, right.
Well, it includes $120,000 in revenue goal. We set the mill rate
Right.
like in a reverse way, depending on how you set this goal.
Right.
So. I was way off last year. Actually, last year's, it's 300,000 to a mill. So this is even less than a half on last year's, on 24 values. 25 values will be different.
But if we add a revenue and then decrease
Yeah.
our revenue, we're just going it.
But ultimately, I would be in favor of all fuel tax and no property tax.
I know,
Personally.
I would, I don't hate that idea also. It seems. I wanna see how that comes in, and what's that been coming in at exactly? Do we have good calculations on that? I'd
So
like.
that's where we got the 120.
I know.
We've been looking
So
at
we've been
Tony's.
looking, so we get 120 on the 3
Ish,
cents.
you know, yeah, it's gonna vary, of course.
I know,
It depends. on
I
how much
know,
fuel.
if everybody buys electric cars.
Well, and what's that do
Then we'll have to pay more
to
diesel.
your big buyers? Are they gonna go to Valdez or Whittier to get?
That's what I'm saying, I wouldn't mind seeing a raised bit of that for a year and see what happens. Before you really adjust our whole taxing scheme,
Yeah, yeah.
which is a great idea, really,
Well,
down the
I think
road,
if we're
but
going down that
fee.
road, we need to look at,
Yeah.
look more serious at, grocery receipts tax, but that hits everybody as well.
right,
I don't see us doing that today.
No,
We had that discussion.
but I,
so we're sitting at 3 cent, or 3 extra cents, so 6 cents on the fuel wharfage. We've added 10, 20, 30, right?
Yes.
30 to the taxes on the revenue. Is council okay with all of that? We've reduced the finance director by 3 months, by a third or a quarter of a year. And we maybe increased some professional services to the finance department, they'll come up with that. We added 15,000 to the ski hill. And that's all I've heard agreement on so far. Anybody else have any? You wanna talk about adding to the school or the chamber?
I mean, I know there was 4 in favor for Ski Hill, but I think for me, it seems a little foolhardy to commit to that without seeing their budget and without knowing where they're at. But that's just
On the ski hills.
on the Ski Hill. I mean, that's my comment on it. Yeah, I think if we've gained and we're still waiting to hear where we're at with the in-kind monies, I mean, there's that's still some question marks there. I don't know why we'd be committing money anywhere until we hear on that. Even with our only funding the finance director for 3/4 of the year. I tend to agree with Councilmember Baylor. Let's just live within our budget, and a lot of these increases are still, this supposed increase in revenue, we won't know till 3rd quarter of next year. We won't have we won't have a better idea until 3rd quarter of next year. And so that's where I'm saying let's let's get some answers to a few of these questions, and then we can have a conversation on, okay, we actually have this, or we feel pretty confident we're gonna have this. Yeah, and I use surplus very, very loosely. And then we can decide, okay, take that and decide if we're gonna give or make less cuts to some of these nonprofits. Because also on there, I just want to point out, we decreased our street maintenance, we decreased our equipment maintenance. And to me, I'd rather see money go back into those things. But that's, again, just one council member's opinion. Those are all necessities. We can't really, all of these nonprofits use that infrastructure. So I was happy to see that we did fund, and it's still in there, the chip seal. So thank you for that. I would really hate to see the 10,000 be taken out of that, because come third quarter of next year, that's what we have left. So just, again, some of my opinions.
Councilmember Rainey.
Yeah, so the 15,000 going back into the ski hill, I mean, at this point, we've done deep cuts across the board. The city's done deep cuts. We've cut everything. I think looking at it for me in perspective, we cut the ski hill pretty deep. I'd like to see the insurance funded by the city moving forward, looking at their breakout and how the money's used and the pass through. I just think that at this point, yes, they all use the infrastructure, but we have taxed pretty hard the year-round residents of the community. We've got our sales tax, we have a big property tax. And I think that at some point we need to look at taking care of aging opportunities for recreation. I'm not willing to completely unfund a city-owned facility like the ski hill. And I'm not willing to, give money up on taking care of things like the pool. So, all I was looking at was trying to find the 15,000 to put the insurance back on the plate for the ski hill. The quarter finance director did that. I wasn't looking to go anywhere else with anything else. I think we should sit back and wait and see what we find out. And then if there is anything left other than that, we can talk about it with other entities. But as far as splitting it up, that's what I was thinking.
Council? Need to make progress somewhere.
Well, I
What
appreciate
is the 15,000? I'm sorry. I mean, you go.
Go ahead, Council Baylor.
Okay, so what the deep cut? So what is the 15,000? What percentage of the ski hill budget is that?
we don't know.
With their bypass income? Well, there you go. Then you can't really say it's a deep cut.
But move back here.
Yeah, it's not being got from what they've been given last fiscal year, it didn't make the scholarship.
Yeah, we cut their maintenance as well. We took
Maintenance on equipment we own.
You might, yeah, council may want to reconsider things once they see the ski hills budget and report. That's coming next meeting, so it can always be taken back out if you see the report shows all kinds of money being spent towards all kinds of things that don't have anything to do with running the ski hill. So, and it's always an option.
Yeah, I guess I would say that we're willing to cut our own street and maintenance.
Yeah.
By more than that. And, they've been funded for multiple years at Ski Hill and $25,000 budget. Amazing. So, let's keep that in mind.
In our agreement with them, or contract, or whatever it is, that pass through money from the towers that are up there, is that required by anything?
The state required it because
Okay.
that's for recreational only. It can't come
Okay.
into the city, so that should be going towards recreation.
Okay.
Use.
What is that amount? Do we know that pass-through amount or,
No budget. It's
it's in
on,
there?
yep, page 24 of the packet.
Like what, I'm thinking 70 that stuff.
Yeah, 35.9 and 36.3 are the two lines.
Okay.
Roughly
And
seven.
when did they start collecting or receiving that money? Do we know how long it's?
Well, this CTC one's been quite a while. 13, 14, this cover
Okay.
value.
It's been a while.
Yeah, cover value wires is a little newer.
Okay. So this didn't just happen last year or even in the last 5 years. So,
No,
But the amounts have gone up because of CPI and that kind of thing.
sure. Okay. Thank you.
Council want to do anything else with the general fund budget? But time to
Mr.
either
Mayor,
decide something or move on.
yeah, Mr.
Well-
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Smith.
thank you. I just wanted to ask about the timing. So we've got a council meeting next week. I'm not sure when the next, when we anticipated having another work session. I mean, it seems like having another work session next week would be pretty quick, like we wouldn't have enough information. Or the staff wouldn't have had an opportunity to get enough information before that. And I guess I'm
Well,
asking,
Yeah, we're getting.
I mean, we were hopeful that tonight would be it, but it looks like we'll need one more. And it's probably gonna be before the meeting next week.
It wouldn't have to be in the packet Friday, it could be a separate work session packet.
Right, I've been putting the work session ones out
okay,
Saturday or Monday, depending on when Sam and Cheryl get it done.
right. Well, I'm just thinking we'll know more, we'll have better figures, could maybe make a final decision. I think I am going to be advocating for adding more back into the chamber's budget because I do feel like they have really stepped up and been doing a lot of work marketing the Cordova Center, which was the original vision, to use this as an asset for the community during the kind of the shoulder seasons and the winter. And certainly with bringing in Board of Fish this year, that's going to do that. But the whole idea was getting several conferences per winter when you would have between, I would say, 25 and 60 people who are staying in local lodging and eating in local restaurants to the extent that they stay open, or at least supporting catering from businesses. But anyway, I think they've really started to do that, and I would like to support them to continue that because that's what's going to help us, to say it crassly, monetize the Cordova Center, which was kind of our goal, was to use that as an asset to generate revenue. So I continue to advocate for putting another 20,000 back in the chamber's budget. Yeah, and I guess I would, if we can, depending on what we learn by next week, do the same for the school district. Councilmember Kinsman's comments are well taken. I understand that we have cut other things in the city and it would be good to be able to put that money back in. So I say those things. I don't know how much more final we have to get tonight in terms of making decisions. I guess
We don't have to be at final tonight, I think we're pretty close already with what we've done tonight, but just as from a historical perspective, when we passed the public accommodation surtax and the vehicle surtax, part of that was with the promise or verbal promise, I guess, from council at that time or from the public at that time was to share that with them. I think originally they wanted all of that surtax, but we came to an agreement to share it with them, and we're getting 245,000 from those surtaxes. Next year is what we budgeted. Well, actually, that's the original. I think we added 10 to both of those, 5 to both of those, whatever we added tonight to those. So we're not sharing very well with them, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think we've heard what you guys are looking at. I don't see that we can really make any decisions on what comes, what stays, what goes, who gets what, until we know what our bottom line is, and we don't know that until we figure out the in-kind and how much money we might need for professional services. Also, I mean, we can just lay it out. This is where we're at with what we now know. And then you can listen to the ski hill. Cause you wanna hear that. And
It's up
then,
there, we're presenting at the meeting.
I know.
next week.
but
How we're gonna have the work session before.
Well, just put an item on the agenda that says any budget changes or whatever, so that we can do that we can have one more discussion and maybe some direction to staff at the the last item on our agenda. We can do that.
Mr.
In
Mayor.
response, Jim Carpenter, I'd just like to say thanks to, or Kristen Smith, I'd like to say thanks to Tom Carpenter, who's actually sitting in the audience, for bringing Florida fish to Cordova.
Mhm.
Was that Councilor Kinsman?
Yeah, is there a possibility or again, appetite from council to doing our work session after that meeting?
It just ends up being pretty late.
I mean, not even after, on a Thursday night, a Friday night, or even the following Monday night. Give staff enough time, give us time to really digest the numbers. I mean, Ski Hill is only one of the presenters, I'm sure, and that's just an opinion. A
Well, I
comment.
think next Thursday is Thanksgiving, right? So I wouldn't be in support of that, but I could do
it's a
Friday or-
Wednesday.
Yeah,
No,
you're
Monday.
looking at the following week.
The last few times we've tried to stray from Wednesdays, there's too much going on in this building. And it's too hard.
Well, we can look and see. I mean,
How about if we do a 6 o'clock work session and then if we recess it, we can finish it after the regular meeting?
we do that.
We shouldn't need
Because we don't think we'll need it.
I don't think we're at the point where we need a whole lot of time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just gonna be a couple of things.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah, well,
So, but are you guys gonna do anything with general fund and the fee schedule tonight?
well, that's
Yeah,
what
okay.
we're getting there.
I meant enterprise.
Next on the agenda was, are we done with the general fund for tonight?
So what I feel like I'm bringing to this work session on the 30th, 20th, whatever the date is, 20th, is basically where we're at. And then you guys are gonna hash out what you wanna do with, if there's anything left over. Or we're not gonna add any revenue, we're not gonna add anything, we're just gonna come in with what we have when we figure out the in-kind.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
figure out the in-kind, add the 10 to the revenues. Take out a quarter of the,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
and add 15 to the ski hill for this next iteration.
That's how it seemed to be, yeah. 87.
And then we'll see where we're at after you find out about the enterprise funds, we'll see where we're at.
Right. Bingo.
Okay. So we're good with the general fund, going once, twice? Okay, enterprise funds, anybody have anything extra to add to the enterprise funds? The only thing I had on there was the in-kind answer. Anybody?
Opposed, do we?
Enterprise funds, I think they're all balanced, they all had money, well, they didn't all have money going to their, depreciation fund. One of them didn't
They all have money.
they? They all had money going in there. Okay.
Well, I
That
just-
we raised.
I had a question for staff on the harbor budget. If the crane on the 3-stage, we have a new crane sitting behind the harbor master office and it's supposed to go on the 3-stage. If that's in this budget or if that is part of the MARAD grant harbor project contract. Also, we were supposed to take the crane off the 3-stage and rehabilitate it and install it out on the old Coast Guard dock. I wonder if that was in this budget anywhere.
The swapping out of the crane on the 3-stage, putting the new one on is part of the MARAD grant, and that's gonna get done this winter. The rest of it is up to us.
Okay, so is there any money in this budget for taking that old crane and refurbing it and getting it put out on the old Coast Guard dock?
Yeah, there's some, other improvements, but not to say we'll have enough, it's a pretty tight year.
Okay, how much more would need to be in the budget to be able to get that done in 2025?
Don't know 100%, I need to go back and look at the quote we had, but it was pretty expensive just due to power and everything that went out there. I don't know where we'd come up with the extra money right now.
We have 120 in your depreciation reserve.
Yeah,
You always seem to be spending depreciation reserve on them.
we spent all that already.
Yeah, I don't know what the balance is in there.
Tony, where's the chocolate?
I forgot.
Does that answer your question, Councilor Jones? Well, I know it
Yeah,
didn't answer.
I wish we could find the money for it because we desperately need that crane installed out there to get the fish buyer out of the harbor and open up our infrastructure to the fishermen who are paying the harbor fees, and also the wear and tear from the forklifts on our dock that we just rebuilt is pretty excessive. So I would like to see us prioritize that moving forward. If we can't do it in 25, hopefully we can find some revenue somewhere. Maybe when one of the disaster relief checks come through, you have to allocate those funds towards a fleet related project. Might be a good use for those funds. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on the enterprise funds?
Mayor
Questions?
Allison.
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Sherman.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that. Counselor Jones had some really good points, and that's one of those things that if Harbor could come back to us or provided in a note or a report how much they need or seeing that quote or updating that quote, that would give us a good idea for the future. And Counselor Jones is right. If that relief money comes in, we could specify or take care of those things.
Anybody else? Tony's here listening. Enterprise funds, go once? It was handed up there, no. Okay, so it may change, some of these enterprise funds may change depending on the in-kind answer, but it would not change the expenses side of the enterprise funds. It would only change the revenue side.
Well, it is in there as a revenue already. It would change the expense side, because we're saying they should not be an in and out on theirs.
Yeah, I don't know that it's all in there already.
Okay.
It doesn't add up to 47,000 either, so. Anyway, we'll figure that out, but.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I have one other thing for the Harbor Enterprise Fund. I guess a question for Tony and Sam.
Tried to escape. Go ahead.
I know we talked about it. I don't know where it is in the process, but the disposal of the travel lift trailer that we purchased for the project and then ended up deciding that maybe we don't need it anymore. Not sure where we are on that, what the process is going to be, if we have to put it out to a bid or if we can try to get top dollar for it. Is that in this budget or is that, how does that affect this budget?
It is not in the budget. We passed a resolution at, Harbor Commission. I need to get that to council. And I won't be here next week for the council meeting, so I was gonna bring it the following one. So as a resolution to sell it or however we're gonna go about doing it. But it's not in the budget. We have no idea what we're gonna get for it or how fast it would sell or won't sell.
Okay, has there been any talk about if it sells, does that money go back into the harbor reserve?
I would think it does, but I mean, I don't truly make all those decisions. It goes back to pay some of the money that we borrowed or, you know.
The harbor owns that trailer. Harbor paid for it.
Yes.
Yes, it would be revenue into the harbor, just like it was when we sold the excavator. It goes in as revenue and then. So you can.
So
put it in
is it-
depreciation.
Is it possible that we could use those funds for 3-stage dock repairs or moving a crane out to the old Coast Guard dock?
It is possible, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else, enterprise funds? Nobody? Okay. Let's look at the fee schedule then. Fee schedule. Questions, comments, issues? There was an extra handout. The sewer and water, we're missing the
And there's still another.
rate paragraph.
Like some written amounts, but all of the number amounts are correct in
Yeah.
the top.
If you notice on page 41, the first page of the fee schedule, I've added in a little section of property tax services, which, have the application fees and then the, annual report fee on the economic development property tax exemption. And then the nonprofit, the other one, which is low income temporary subdivision, temporary landscape. And I'm doing a fee for the senior citizen property tax exemption application. And what I forgot to put in, and I'm considering still, is $100 fee to appeal your property tax, but it's refundable fee. All it really is you pay $100 to apply, to appeal your property assessment. And you get the $100 back regardless of how your appeal goes, as long as you, participate in the appeal process. You respond to the assessor, you respond to the clerk's office, you attend the BOE if you're asked to, or have somebody attend in your place. You know, because you've been the BOE and you've sat through it where we get stiffed and it's very frustrating. It's a lot of work for all of us, so if you guys are supportive of that, I'm gonna put that in.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, whoever was online.
No, it's Councilmember Kinsman. My only question on that is, does staff currently feel like that's something they can enforce? I mean, we have these fees and the refund of these fees, or who, how it's determined they get their fee money back. It does require some enforcement to be able to do that, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see what you mean. I'll write out criteria on the application that says what is considered participating in the appeal.
And I would wanna make sure that that's a legal
Yes,
charge.
It is.
If it's taxes, regulated, but it's somebody.
Yeah, no, I was talking to Jess about it already, so. Anchorage has it like that also.
Yeah, that's my only comment on it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, because
I
yeah,
appreciate that.
that is
comment.
pretty daunting and disheartening to sit on BOE and yeah, have most of the people not show up for their appeal. Thank you.
Anything you wanna point out?
Well,
Sarah?
I mentioned earlier that we, did the, that the police department increased their fees, the city hall, slash property tax, title bar, what Susan was just discussing, the economic development fees. We also, took out the credit card charges that were in there last year, and there are no credit card fees for utilities. We only take cash and check for property tax, and that we are increasing the late fee for utilities to $25 per month for an account. So that just means if you have water, sewer, and refuse, it's a $25 late fee. It's not a $75 late fee. But if you only have refuse, it's still a $25 fee.
Right.
I think Samantha increased a few fees, the kids. She's here if anybody would like to ask those questions.
All these fees are in the budget as they're written here.
Yes.
Do you have any questions on? Well, maybe you can just run through real quick what big changes you made.
I didn't make a lot of big changes this year. One thing that we haven't increased in years, I couldn't go back to the last time we did, but just the individual fee for a child to enter the pool, I did increase that $1. It's the only one that has been untouched. The rest of them I really didn't increase. I think we're at a point where we've increased them for a few years now, and it's not gonna benefit us to try to increase them more. I don't think we're gonna get more people coming in. And then just for the rentals for Bedarkie and for the pool, I increased those, I think $10. So each, so minimal, I didn't do anything with Odiak. But I just think it was, asking a lot this year. So not doing very many increases.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Yeah, just maybe an explanation. So I think getting back to the in kind, so then these fees are calculated with what it costs to run the business and set a little bit aside. So in that calculation is the cost of these in-kind contributions, since they're actually not getting money from the general fund. Is that correct?
I understand.
Well,
In other words,
this isn't well, are you talking about the pool and such?
No, I'm sorry. I was back. I'm down to the water and sewer. If we're not there yet, then.
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Well, we're setting the fees for the water and sewer based on what our operating costs are, I would assume. So then evidently those in-kind contributions are also figured in there, since that's kind of a net loss. We're not paying for that through the general fund is what you're telling us. So,
Yes.
right, that's how that's getting paid for,
Yes,
correct? Okay.
Right, the ratepayers for refuse are paying for the in-kind refuse. The ratepayers for sewer are paying for the in-kind sewer from the pool from the school and chamber.
yes. You were looking worried.
Right.
Pool also.
The pool.
It's in revenue.
It's got some
Right.
in-kind, and maybe some of the schools, their in-kind
Yeah,
is the
is it?
pool. But,
I'll get back on that. I don't wanna speak to it
Yeah.
without knowing what it is.
yeah, I don't know if it is or isn't now, but the pool is providing some in-kind to the schools, cause we're not charging the schools anything to use the pool.
Correct.
And they use it a fair amount, don't they use it half a day or something every day?
Yeah, they're in there from noon time till 4 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. And we provide a lifeguard for them during that time.
So that's not cheap. Anything else on the fee schedule? Thank you for being here and being willing to answer questions. So we're all good with the fee schedule then? Not hearing anybody. All are too loud. I think we're probably pretty good with the fee schedule. Sounds like if there's something you need to add, just make sure we get a note that says you added that, if you know. If you're gonna add something, if you think of anything else that you wanna add or change. Throw that in there, and I don't think we need it all again, we just need to hear what you've,
Well, when the actual resolution comes, it'll
be on there, yeah. Okay.
So 6 o'clock,
Anything
Next
else?
week?
I think 6 o'clock next
6
week.
o'clock next week, and then if it
For
goes
workshop.
long, or if we're still
can-
deciding at the end what
We
to
can always
do,
recess.
we can recess and finish it at the end.
So we're not putting something on the agenda now? Like, there was a discussion.
No, I think I'd rather do it as the work session, just recess and reconvene.
Well, we can recess either way, I guess. Not adjourn the work session when it's time to go to council
Right,
and then if we can adjourn them both at the same time or
sure,
take 5 minutes and adjourn after that.
either way.
Well, now, in this conversation about the fee schedule, we're not involved with groups like the ice rooms and stuff like that. That's a different conversation. This is just what the fee schedule is put forth. Who gets charged that? Is that another conversation? Or how does
It's the fee
that?
schedule, that's
Yeah, I
what
think
council acts on.
Like what you're talking about is kind of internal.
Right. So, I mean, cause I'm fine with the fee schedule, but I do have some issues with how it's utilized, but
I think,
Wow.
who's being charged, what is.
yeah. Who's being charged? Who's being charged that fee schedule?
But that's not.
But,
This.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking
but
about.
I don't know when,
But when do we talk about that? Because we just established that the school is one of the biggest users of the pool and they don't pay anything, but yet we're gonna double charge the ice run swim team because they
Well, I
already
think-
have a pass for the pool.
I think staff and the swim team are still
Yeah, we're having a
in
discussion.
talks. They haven't gotten
But
any
the-
final thing yet.
if you wanna put out there that you wanna charge the school for the school, that's your prerogative. The swim team and the school are two very different
Yeah,
things.
I just said that it wasn't cheap. I'm not advocating that we charge the school anything because I think it's mandatory for a community that lives in between an ocean and a lake to teach your kids how to swim.
Then they try to recognize there was a cost associated with it.
Yeah. Anything else on the budget? Anything else staff needs other than answers? We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. I just like to, before I adjourn, appreciate Sam and I think Susan and Cheryl and maybe some others came in on the holiday Monday to get this packet out to it. And they're all salaried, so they don't get that time made up. And so I appreciate the extra effort you guys put into that. So there being no further business, we will adjourn the work session.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
all for being online.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.